Here are some weird experiments that you won't believe were legal. Stanford Prison Experiment, one of the most notorious psychological experiments. This study involved college students being assigned roles as either prisoners or guards in a mock prison environment. The guards quickly began to abuse their authority, and the prisoners exhibited extreme stress and emotional breakdowns. The experiment was stopped after just 6 days, but remains a disturbing example of how social roles and power dynamics can drastically alter human behavior. The Monster Study. This experiment on orphan children aimed to study how positive and negative reinforcement affected speech. The researchers praised half of the children for their speaking skills while criticizing the other half, even those who had no speech impediments. The results caused psychological trauma for the children, who were negatively reinforced, and some even developed lifelong speech issues. Despite the damage, it was conducted legally. Project MKUltra, run by the CIA. This project involved the testing of mind control and interrogation techniques, including the use of drugs like LSD, often without the subject's consent. The full extent of the project only came to light in the 1970s, but during its time, it was technically legal under government authorization, despite its highly unethical practices. The Milgram Experiment. Psychologist Stanley Milgram's controversial experiment explored obedience to authority. Participants were instructed to deliver increasingly intense electric shocks to a person who was actually an actor when they answered questions incorrectly. Though no one was actually harmed, the experiment caused immense psychological stress for the participants, many of whom believed they were hurting others. Despite its questionable ethics, it was legal at the time. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. In this infamous experiment, poor African American men with syphilis were studied to observe the natural progression of the disease. The researchers withheld treatment, even when penicillin became widely available, leading to countless unnecessary deaths and health complications. The study was only stopped after media exposure in the 1970s. 3 Identical Strangers. This study involved separating triplets at birth and placing them in different families with no knowledge of each other's existence. The research aimed to study nature versus nurture by observing how the identical triplets would develop in different environments. The triplets only discovered each other later in life, and the experiment remains controversial for the psychological harm caused to the participants. Cryonics. Freezing bodies for the future. While not an experiment in the traditional sense, cryonics involves freezing a person's body or brain after death, with the hope that future technology will allow them to be revived. Although it's legal, cryonics is still largely considered pseudoscience and faces serious ethical and practical questions. There's no current technology to bring people back to life, yet people are spending tens of thousands of dollars to be preserved in liquid nitrogen. Human-animal hybrids. In recent years, scientists have legally begun experimenting with creating human-animal hybrids, chimeras, by inserting human stem cells into animal embryos. These experiments are designed to study human diseases or grow human organs for transplantation. While the research is tightly regulated, the ethical questions surrounding how human these hybrids might become have raised significant debate. The Pit of Despair. Psychologist Harry Harlow conducted cruel experiments on rhesus monkeys to study the effects of isolation and depression. He placed baby monkeys in a small, dark cage with no physical or social interaction for months at a time, resulting in severe emotional and psychological damage. The experiment was controversial, but was conducted legally at the time. These experiments show that legality doesn't always equate to ethical conduct. Today, most of these studies would be banned under modern ethics standards, but they were once considered acceptable within the boundaries of the law.